As a people, the Bavarians come from a region north of the Alps, a region which had before been inhabited by the Celts, while it was a province of the Roman Empire, first as Raetia and then as Noricum. Obviously, these provinces didn't include the exact borders of the Bavarian state, but they were roughly in the same region. They spoke Old High German, but unlike other Germanic populations, they didn't migrate to Germania from somewhere else. Instead, they were formed by the merging of a number of other population groups left behind after the Roman Empire came to an end. The Celtic Boii, the Romans themselves, the Marcomanni, the Alemanni, the Syrians, among others. Their name, Bavarian, means men of Baia, which some say indicates the area of Bohemia, where the Boii and the Marcomanni were from, which means these might have been the initial Germanic populations to come together in Bavaria and settle the area. After the fall of the Roman Empire, the region which we today know as Bavaria became a part of Francia, also known as Kingdom of the Franks, the largest post-Roman barbarian kingdom in Western Europe. Francia existed from 481 to 843 AD, and the emergence of the first Bavarian duchy within the Kingdom of the Franks dates back to 555 AD, being incorporated into Francia in the 8th century. Francia eventually turned into the Carolingian Empire, ruled by Charlemagne, and not long after it collapsed. When it did, it was divided into West, Middle, and East Francia. What's important for us right now is East Francia because that's where Bavaria was located. East Francia was divided into 4 duchies: Swabia, Franconia, Saxony, and Bavaria, lasting from 843 to 962. At this time, Bavaria represented itself through the coat of arms of the House of Welf, which controlled it. During some of these years, for instance 952 to 976, Bavaria's rule extended into other regions, like parts of Austria and almost all the way down to Venice into the Verona region in Italy. In fact, their loss of one territory, Ostarrîchi, roughly in this area, which was then granted to the Babenberger family, marks the founding of Austria. So Bavaria is at the origin of that. And this Bavarian duchy is, I think, the origin point for the current Bavarian state. After some time and through a lot of changes, the regions of East Francia transformed into the Holy Roman Empire, or became a part of it, of which the Duchy of Bavaria continued to belong to as well. Interestingly, it is in an internal conflict with the empire that the very well-known blue and white colors became the symbols of Bavaria. Between 1070 and 1180, there was a lot of animosity between the Holy Roman Emperor and the rulers of Bavaria. Eventually, the animosity scaled up into an actual conflict, which the House of Welf lost. Being so, the emperor, at this time Frederick Barbarossa, removed the titles of Bavaria and Saxony of this house, granting it to the House of Wittelsbach, whose coat of arms is the blue and white pattern we all associate with Bavaria. And this royal house ruled the region for almost 800 years until 1918. So, right now the year is 1180, and the Duchy of Bavaria is a member of the Holy Roman Empire. Essentially, their status remained unchanged for about 500 years. But then, during the 30 Years' War in 1623, Bavaria's dukes were raised to prince-electors of the Holy Roman Empire, and therefore the Duchy of Bavaria transformed into the Electorate of Bavaria. In reality, there was no actual change to Bavaria when it changed from a duchy to an electorate, except it had more power and influence within the Holy Roman Empire. Their territory remained unchanged, and it's actually interesting to look at weird changes that Bavaria's territory went through at times. At this specific time, for instance, their domains weren't really pleasant on the eyes of map enthusiasts, with independent islands in the middle of their land and separate territories which they also ruled. Now, I'm going to be totally honest with you right now. The events that took place during this period of the Electorate of Bavaria are just a big mess. The amount of marriages, revolts, wars, agreements, and relations between the different princes, houses, duchies, and kingdoms is just ridiculously large and complicated. So I'm going to skip all these many small, although sometimes important events and boil it down to this. Bavaria's rule became eventually more and more absolutist on an internal level. They were able to, whether by desire, conquest, or inheritance, increase both their territory and their influence, which didn't please some of their fellow Holy Roman Empire members, including at times the Austrians. And now we fast forward to 1792, because someone was about to change up all of Europe. Guess who? That's right, Napoleon. In this year, France's armies overran the Palatinate region under Bavarian rule. In 1795, they entered Bavaria itself and conquered Munich, being greeted by many liberal Bavarians who were against the absolutist rule. Finally, they reached peace with the Treaty of Lunéville, losing the Palatinate and two smaller duchies of Zweibrücken and Jülich. However, Napoleon's victory was not a death sentence for Bavaria. In fact, it ended up helping it. In 1803, due to a territorial rearrangement by the French, Bavaria was granted a number of new territories. Here we can see in light green the territory they had before, and the dark green line shows its new borders after the land gain, bringing it very close to the current form. A year later, in 1806, the Confederation of the Rhine was created, leading to the end of the Holy Roman Empire. The Prince Elector of Bavaria declared himself king, and this is how the Duchy of Bavaria became the Kingdom of Bavaria. The Kingdom of Bavaria existed from 1806 to 1918. It is during this period, in 1814, that most of Bavaria's current borders were established, when Bavaria ceded Tyrol and Vorarlberg to the Austrians and received Aschenfernberg and Würzburg in return, and then it existed as an independent kingdom for a while. After the rise of Prussia to power in the north of Germany, it kept its independence by playing off the rivalry between Austria and Prussia, not becoming part of the North German Federation in 1867, but then joining the German Empire in 1871, after siding with Prussia on a war against France. Bavaria continued as a monarchy within the empire, and it had some special rights, such as an army, a railway service, a postal service, and a diplomatic body of its own. Despite having joined the German Empire in a somewhat peaceful way, a lot of Bavarians have a sense of several national identity up to this day, being Bavarians first and Germans second. This might have to do with the fact that the Kingdom of Bavaria was mostly Catholic, while their, at the time, rulers of Prussia were mostly Protestants. An interesting aspect is that it's the only state in Germany which today currently calls itself a free state. It has no legal difference, and maybe they're just making a point. And then we get to 1918. After World War I, the German Empire was abolished, and a republic was instaured, both on a federal level and also locally in Bavaria. The Kingdom of Bavaria came to an end, and the current Free State of Bavaria was created. However, a fun fact is that, up to this day, no member of the House of Wittelsbach ever formally declared renunciation of the throne. So that is how Bavaria evolved into its current form. It has a unique aspect amongst German states, having two official flags of equal status, one with a white and blue stripe, and the other with the white and blue lozenges, which is the shield of the House of Wittelsbach. Today, it shares borders with Austria, Czechia, and Switzerland. Within Germany, it borders the state of Baden-Württemberg, Hesse, Thuringia, and Saxony. You could currently divide it into Franconia, Bavarian Swabia, Upper Palatinate, Lower Bavaria, and Upper Bavaria. Interestingly, the geographic center of the European Union is located in the northwest corner of Bavaria. It has one of the largest economies of any region in Germany, or Europe for that matter. Its GDP in 2007 exceeded 434 billion. In 2018, it had the lowest unemployment rate in Germany, and one of the lowest in all of the EU at 2.6%. Today, the majority of the population is still Catholic at 50.5%. 18.8% are Protestants, 4% are Muslims, and 26.7% follow other or no religion. Due to their history and territorial changes, mainly 3 German dialects are spoken in Bavaria: Austro-Bavarian, Swabian German, and East Franconian German.
Has become a United Nations World Heritage Site. Neuschwanstein in Bavaria inspired Walt Disney and attracts 1 million visitors a year. And now the new listing is likely to make it even more popular.
There it is, Neuschwanstein, Germany's most beloved castle. But what makes it so fascinating? Is it the stunning setting, the fairy tale towers, or maybe its dramatic history?
Neuschwanstein is famous around the world as the castle of the fairy tale king Ludwig II of Bavaria. And now it has finally been named a UNESCO World Heritage Site.
And every year, about 1 million people come to Bavaria just to see this place. But what exactly awaits them? And who was King Ludwig II, the man behind this magical creation? Let's find out.
Follow me on a tour of the castle from the public-facing pomp to the king's most private quarters. I'll show you all you need to know before a visit. Neuschwanstein Castle is located near Hohenschwangau in Bavaria in southern Germany, about 2 hours by car from Munich. The crowds are huge year-round, even in the village below. Here you'll find souvenirs from swans to figurines of the king. You can buy tickets here, but it's better to book them online in advance.
You can only go inside the castle as part of a guided tour at a specific time.
Now you just have to get up to the castle.
And then you have 2 options to get up. You can either walk, which takes about 30 minutes, or you can take a horse-drawn carriage for a more romantic and relaxed ride.
From Zimmermannsplatz, located just below the castle, you get a first stunning close-up view. On the last stretch, you have no choice. The only way in is on foot. But before I go in, I want to know what brought the other visitors here.
I think this is the must be in Germany. It's very great, with long history, with very magnificent building, very good.
Love it. Like, this is crazy.
Man liest überall davon, man hört überall davon, also muss man es auch gesehen haben.
The castle with the cliffs behind it and the ravine, we saw the bridge across that, that's a beautiful scenario. And then from the other way with the lake as well, it's 2 completely different scenarios that, yeah, I think perfect location.
Now I finally get to go in. We had to wait until all the visitors were gone because filming is only allowed outside opening hours. I get to enter through the courtyard. Patrick Kopp is going to guide me through the fairy tale king's castle.
Would that have been in his interest to have millions of people walk through his dream castle?
Not at all. Not at all. There's an anecdote that he actually said on his last stay here. He's said to have said to his personal servant, "Please, Fritz, never let anybody go through here." So no,
we're
it was
effectively disrespecting his last wish here.
They were.
Is that a good omen for our visit?
Ludwig II grew up not far from here. Even after he became king, he preferred to stay in the Bavarian mountains rather than in his residence in Munich.
Moving from 15...
What kind of a person was he? What was his personality? Do we know?
We know quite a lot. He was a deep and contrasting character. He was a dreamer, certainly, an eccentric, certainly, even more, becoming more eccentric the longer he lived. He liked art. He loved theater and music. Was not himself an artist, so he liked to watch it. He didn't like a lot of the things that other young noblemen were meant to be liking. Hunting, soldiery, army. He didn't much care for that, which set him apart from a lot of his peers in this time. And that might have been another reason why he wanted to get out and build his own world, where he could be just himself.
Neuschwanstein Castle was never completed. Many rooms remain empty to this day. The unfinished nature is visible even here in the richly decorated throne hall.
So this is the throne room,
Yes.
but there is no throne.
There is no throne.
What's going on here?
The throne, tragically, was one of the pieces that were never done when the king died. The royal family, they stopped investment right after the king died. Thought about what to do with it, made it a museum, but anything not yet started at this point was never done. They just finished up things. And one of the main things that are missing is the throne that should be standing up there. When you look left and right of the staircase, the 12 apostles, 6 sainted kings above the platform where the throne would have been standing, and above them all then Jesus Christ, pointing to Ludwig II's view of kingship, sent by God to rule over certain people. Not the kingship he experienced in his time, but the old kingship, the old idea. There's a big symbol for that too, kind of hidden in its meaning, but not to be overseen. You have a giant chandelier here in the center of the room, weighing nearly a ton, made of gilded brass, 96 candles alone on that. It's modeled on a Byzantine imperial crown and is meant as a symbol for the old kings because the crown hangs between the cupola, sun and stars, heaven, and the mosaic floor, animals, plants, earth, showing where the old kings stood in their societies, between their subjects on earth and God in heaven.
Ludwig's fairy tale castle is full of contradictions. On one hand, it was an escape from the present into an idealized Middle Ages. On the other hand, it was equipped with all the perks of the technical progress of its time. From the kitchen, a small paternoster lift brought food to the king. There was running water, warm water even, and a telephone line to the servants.
And this is where he slept?
This is where he slept. This is the king's bedroom.
It's not a king-size mattress, then.
It isn't, yes. It's a single bed, though, you know.
Okay.
He was never married. He did have a fiancée in his youth, but they never married. So this was always intended as a place for one person. That also makes the bed a bit smaller than it would have been.
No wife, a fiance back in the day, any love interests that we might know about today?
He was very likely homosexual without living it out, because he was also very likely a true, deep Catholic believer, which made him not a very happy person, I guess. Yeah. So there's stories and worse stories, but there's no real thing in the open.
The fact that he had to hide that very substantial part of himself, do you think that contributed to him wanting to build this kind of fairy tale world for him where he could hide from the real world?
Might well be one of the aspects that led to that. Together, though, with all the other aspects, that him not really having the power he liked to, not having a lot of friends or peers that he connected to, not liking the city, just plain as that. He liked the countryside. So it's one aspect out of many aspects in my view that made him search for a place where he could, you know, build his own reality.
One person Ludwig II felt close or kindred to, at least temporarily, was the composer Richard Wagner. It's noticeable all around. but mostly in the so-called Singers' Hall.
The room
Join over 200.
in total is again a kind of stage set, because the king here tried to rebuild the Singers' Hall of Wartburg Castle. Wartburg Castle, a famous medieval castle in Germany, that appears in one of Richard Wagner's operas, Tannhäuser. So Ludwig II wanted to have a similar room for himself on his own castle. Again, this kind of dream world, right? Yeah. Unfortunately, a dream world that he himself never really got to enjoy. He did spend only 2 months here. Before he was aged 40, he was declared insane and thus unfit to rule by a commission of the Bavarian government.
Here's a tip for you. King Ludwig also had 2 other magnificent castles built. They too have recently been declared UNESCO World Heritage Sites, and both are open to the public. Shortly after construction began on Neuschwanstein, Ludwig had Schloss Linderhof built in the Ammergau Alps, a rather small Rococo-style castle. And then there is Schloss Herrenchiemsee, a Baroque palace complex modeled after Versailles. The Hall of Mirrors is even 2 meters longer than the original in France. But back to Neuschwanstein. I absolutely have to show you the balcony. Wow.
Yeah, as you said, that's exactly what I mean. That connection. I think the visit to Neuschwanstein is not complete if you can't appreciate the surroundings. Walk around the castle, come out here, enjoy that, spend some time in the surrounding landscape and enjoy.
That was my day at Neuschwanstein already. So what is it that keeps enchanting people to this day? I think it's, of course, the beautiful scenery, the whimsical architecture, the dreamlike interiors, and maybe also, to some extent, that tragic, mysterious king behind it all.